And this debt that we are constantly kept in is also, to a large extent, what keeps this civilization in a state of fear, even when there's no wars or natural disasters or police brutality going on. It just keeps us in a state of fear because we're always worried about whether we have enough paper to survive. And the fear starts to spill over into virtually all aspects of our lives. And we begin to feel disconnected. We begin to feel all alone. We begin to feel frail. We begin to search for that which we believe may make us whole. And it does truly affect us on all levels, folks. Unfortunately, even a lot of relationships these days are chosen again from fear. Very often a fear of facing oneself, a fear of being alone, when really nobody's alone, a fear of the incompletion that so many people feel within themselves. In modern relationships, it's very common for people to look for what they perceive to be the missing part of themselves, or that which they find to be inadequate about themselves. They look for a quick fix or a repair for this situation in a partner in which they see these traits as being strong. Then they get into the relationship and they seek to use that other person to patch up their own inadequacies. This is unfortunately what a large number of modern relationships are, and a kind of dependency soon develops between the two. And you find couples that are mixed up in a relationship that contains a little bit of want, a little bit of need, desire, lust, dependency, control, and this all gets wrapped up into one little bundle, and people call it love. And then when they fail to mould their partner into the band-aid that they need to fix themselves, then very often relationship problems ensue. And I'm saying this because I've seen so many couples around me break up in the last couple of months, like at least 5, and I've received emails from other couples who also seem to be going through something similar. But what I'm essentially saying here is very often we tend to get into a relationship in order to find solace or comfort or closure or wholeness for the parts of ourselves that we perceive to be inadequate. I mean, not all the time, folks, but very often this is what modern people do. They perceive themselves to be incomplete, and so they look to complete themselves in others. It's like we are seeking a patch for our soul. We constantly spend our lives trying to find the other half of ourselves that will make us feel whole and complete, and we look for completeness in another person. But the question is, why would a person who felt incomplete in themselves perceive themselves to even be able to find these qualities in another person? Personally, I've found that the best form of relationship is a relationship in which you are free to be who and what you were born to be. And you are free to live the life and feel the feelings that you want to live and that you want to feel, and whose only desire for their partner was to help that partner excel at being who and what they are, and to help their partner reach their fullest potential. What each person in creation is essentially experiencing is their path through life. Now that may sound rather obvious at first, but people very often don't grasp the importance of it. When you enter into a relationship with someone, you are sharing a path through life with that person. And their path through life is just as important and just as beautiful as your path through life. To me, a relationship, rather than being a search for that which we perceive to be missing in ourselves, would be more functional as a shared resonance of harmonious frequencies. Two frequencies who resonate with each other and who empower and protect and care and want the most for each other and will help the other excel at being who and what they are, that will help each other excel at life itself, and whose dedication will be not only to their own life, but also to helping their partner to reach the heights that they would hope to reach for themselves, and who will not be in fear of their partner reaching those heights, even if they fail to reach the goals that they set for themselves. And that's fine to do, folks, because very often the goals that we set for ourselves are unobtainable, or even when we reach these goals we find that the gains that we thought we would make were simply not to be had. When I was a young child, I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, and my answer was outrageously happy. You see, my goal in life, folks, is to be happy and to help as many people around me as I can. My goal in life is to make reality better by my existence in it. So if you have a relationship with somebody else and your goal in that relationship is to be happy and whole within yourself, and to strive to help your partner become happy and whole within themselves, then you can accomplish amazing things. And this is not to strive to make your partner excel at what you believe they should excel at, but is in fact to help them be themselves to the fullest. The best, the most productive, the most fruitful, and the most beautiful of all relationships is a relationship that consists of two people, two frequencies who have absolutely no fear for the heights that the other may reach and the experiences that the other may experience. Because that's what true love is. It's the removal of fear. And this includes the fear of facing our own inadequacies, fear of allowing other people to reach their fullest potential, and very often also fear of allowing ourselves to reach our fullest potential. Now, earlier I was saying that everything in your life is perfect, even the bad parts. And what I mean by this, folks, is that when you come into the world, all you bring into the world with you is the resonant frequency that is yourself. And ultimately, all you take from the world when you leave it is the resonant frequency that is yourself. And that frequency is here to gain the experience in life that is you. All through this experience, we are offered choices. Whether we realize it or not, we are all offered choices. If we take a wrong choice and bad things happen, we are gifted with an opportunity for growth. We are gifted with an opportunity to understand why these things have happened to us, why our life took the direction that it did. And even if we end up in a bad place, even if we end up in a situation where we end up dying, what it all comes down to is how we deal with the experience. I personally am not in any fear of death. I have no fear of death whatsoever. There's absolutely nothing that can be done to me within this 3D hologram, this 3D matrix, this 5 sense reality in which we live. There is absolutely nothing within this reality that can be done to me which puts me in a state of fear. Even were I to be taken from this reality, I'm not in fear of that. I'm not in fear of what comes after. I would not be sad if I died. I'd be dead. What would there be to be sad about? I wouldn't be here anymore, so it would be very difficult to feel sad. I would imagine that the people who love me, the people who care about me, the people who may miss me, may experience sadness at my death. But I wouldn't be there, folks. I wouldn't be experiencing that sadness because I'd be dead. And I would accept that my time here is done. I would accept that the experience that I had is now over, and I will now be moving on to a new experience. No fear, folks. No fear. And even when you look at it on a global stage, the world is in a pretty bad state, but it's all perfect because it's providing the human race with the perfect opportunity that the human race obviously needs to stand up and to deal with the problem, to stand up and come into their power, to address the situation that we find ourselves in, because it could very easily be addressed simply by people changing their perspective of reality and by simply standing up and standing in their power, by knowing who and what they are and who and what we are capable of. We are very powerful beings, folks, and we could accomplish a great deal if we would only realize the potential that we have. I think it's pretty well close to break time here, folks, so I'll leave it there for now, and we'll go and have a break. Thank you very much for spending this time with me today, and I'll speak to you again in a few minutes. And as always, thank you very much for listening. Welcome back, folks. Now, before the break, I was talking about relationships, and I was talking about how very often within relationships, people become dependent upon their partner, and in doing so, they often prevent their partner from being themselves to their fullest potential. And by doing so, we find that we also prevent ourselves from being ourselves to our fullest potential, because we become dependent upon someone else to fill up those parts that we perceive to be missing from ourselves. And as it happens in the microcosm, it also happens in the macrocosm, because you can see that this is the way our society works as well. Perhaps that's where we get it from, or perhaps our society is simply a reflection of our failure to find the power within ourselves. Our governments impose rules and laws and legislation which prevent humanity from being all that they can be, and prevent individual people from being themselves to their fullest potential. Now, some people may listen to this and say, well, okay, there are psychopathic people out there, there are murderers out there, and if they were to be themselves to their fullest potential, then we'd have a lot of violence and a lot of dead people around. And this is a good point. But you've got to understand as well that most people who commit crime, even crimes of passion, crimes of lust, these people do so because of deep, deep insecurities that are embedded within themselves, unless it's simply because of a biological imbalance and misfiring neurons in the brain, which just causes someone to be a psycho. But you'll find that most of these problems that people develop are because they have a misconception of reality. And this has been presented to them all through their life. It happens as soon as they're born. They're influenced by their parents, by their siblings, by the education system, by the social situation they're born into. There is a large number of contributing factors. But again, you look at all of these contributing factors and you realize that all these factors only actually exist to begin with, again, because of a misconception of reality. See, folks, if human beings were allowed to reach their fullest potential, and if human beings learnt at an early age of the connection we actually have to each other, then people would view each other and they would view the world very differently, and they would therefore interact with the world very, very differently. And this is what I mean when I say that all of the problems exist because of a misconception of reality. The people that have constructed this system, the people within the system who totally operate in left brain, and they work within the system, and they work every day to make the system more efficient, more efficient, more efficient. These people only do this because of a misconception of reality, because of the education system. You see, we are taught from a very early age that education is everything. You've got to get educated. Education, education, education. But what we are never told is that all of the education we are given is directed solely to the left hemisphere of the brain. And humanity will only ever operate in balance when both hemispheres are used to their fullest potential.